Victor Martin Page, born February 19, 1975. Today's feature is one you would think was about two different people. On one side, you had a guy that lost his father to pneumonia and his mother to AIDS, but still managed to make it to the highest levels of college basketball. In a group with a few now Hall of Famers on a legendary college basketball team, and shared the backcourt with one of the greatest guards the game has ever seen in Allen Iverson. In his freshman year, they formed the most dynamic and athletic backcourt in all of the NCAA. This side of him was on a one-way street headed straight to riches and glory of playing in the league. But there was another side of him too, a dark one, that couldn't escape his roots formed straight from the slums of DC. No strong influences around him, with a talent that made him think he was bulletproof and could do whatever he wanted. Whatever included selling drugs, assault, sexual assault, drinking, smoking, all while doing some amazing things as a basketball player, so he was always excused for it up to that point. But that second side of him would prove too strong to allow his first side to ever have a chance at a real life. One with both eyes, being paid for your gifts and not being in a delusional whirlwind, still thinking at almost 50 years old you could still make it to the NBA. In DC, Page is considered a legend by many. The rest see him as a predator that used his power and fame as a weapon to hurt the community and embarrass the city that rooted for him to make it out. Where is he now? Currently serving a 20-year sentence for attempting to rape a female in her apartment and savagely holding on to her even as people watch and try to pry him off. Why did he take this turn? Here's 3 reasons. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Ash, get it, man. Stunt number 1, when it's over, I did it my way. These are words from Page's own mouth. In an interview with WUSA 9, he stated that no one should get it twisted and think that he didn't have the guidance it took to be successful. He just wanted to do it his way. And with a guy like John Thompson in your corner, you can't help but to believe that statement. In his mind, his way meant smoking weed, hanging on the block with the wash-ups, and drinking past midnight, as well as before school the next morning. After researching his story, that quote right there really stood out. It's my personal opinion that Victor Page was suffering from some sort of mental illness for real, but I'm just as much of a doctor as this guy. An illness that only continued to get worse as time went on. To think what he said made any sense as a young man with Georgetown in your email is beyond me. It could only be explained by addiction or mental health. I think it was the latter. In high school, Southeast DC Berry Farms, Page was a standout at McKinley Tech. He averaged 31 points a game as a senior and was the Washington Post Player of the Year. That was his basketball side. No one ever questioned that. But before that very senior year, Page was arrested for riding with crack cocaine and a loaded, unregistered .380 caliber semi-automatic weapon. He pled guilty, and while awaiting trial, he led his high school team to the DC Public League Championship. After the season, he just picked up and left school without a care to attend classes nor attempt to graduate. Later in the spring of '94, he appeared in court and pled guilty to a misdemeanor possession charge. Lucky, right? Sentencing was scheduled for a month later, and he failed to show up, leading to a warrant for his arrest. After playing in mad summer league games, Page finally turned himself in and was sentenced to work release for the purpose of completing his GED. Over the next year, he attended school and earned his diploma along with his eligibility to play college ball. Georgetown was eager to have him, and he joined the Allen Iverson-led Hoyas for his freshman season. The Hoyas claimed they never even knew he had a prior conviction. In the words of the offbeat slapper maker Blueface Bleed'em, yeah, aight. Up to this point, doing things his way still managed to get him by, but feeding fire to a dragon is exactly what he'll spit out. Stunt number 2, the mosquito that wanted butterfly wings. I found myself trying to answer the same question for the past 10 years until finally, out of frustration, decided to Google it. What is the purpose of mosquitoes? And just like I thought, those bloodsuckers that seem to be magnets to my skin and blood type have no purpose at all other than to make more of their vulture's colony and to be eaten by other animals. The most annoying animal on the face of the earth, and I promise to one day rid them from humanity and save the world. Well, not really, but you feel me. But the other thing I learned about them is that they will never evolve. They will always be the same bloodsuckers they are. But they aren't alone. When you see a person given half the world in opportunity, love, and chance after chance, and still they end up in the situations Paige made for himself constantly, you have to compare this person to the mosquito. No matter what wings you put on such person, they will always resort to sneaking up on unsuspecting victims and unwittingly attempting to drain them for anything and everything they got. The worst individual is one you can't make feel remorse for harming others. In his freshman season for the Hoyas, Paige was more than impressive. He stood alongside AI and at times looked levels better than him. Like for example, the Big East tournament, where he led the Warriors to the championship game and they lost by 1 point to Ray Allen and the Huskies. Victor was on a 6-man all-tournament team that included a few future Hall of Famers and other NBA talent. Oh, and yeah, he was named the tournament MVP over all of them as a freshman. Victor was on his way, but he wasn't done. That year, his backcourt mate Allen Iverson was the #1 pick in the draft. Vic just knew he was up next. In his sophomore season, Paige put on an outstanding performance and averaged numbers not too far off from the #1 draft pick a year earlier. The only difference, after his sophomore year, Paige went undrafted. Why, you ask? Will you try placing huge wings of a beautiful butterfly on a mosquito and see how many red welts you leave with? Paige just never let go of his attitude and misbehaving ways enough to even be considered a professional. Like the time in 1997 when he was at the pre-draft camp having drinks at the hotel bar while NBA officials watched from a distance. Make matters worse, he stayed out all night and missed workouts the next morning. Or when the Minnesota Timberwolves signed him to the training camp roster and he got into an altercation with another player. Or when he got into a fight in St. Louis, cut his hand open and lied to the team. Or the time in the CBA when he chased a teammate with a broom, jabbing him and poking him. Paige never left those street ways in the streets, and it was evident as soon as he opened his mouth. GMs didn't want the headache, reputation, and baggage he'd built for himself and passed on him. Every single team, a definite NBA talent at the time, but had the wrong makeup to be anything other than that fly we mentioned earlier. Stunt number 3, delusional. And I say that respectfully, not to demean Paige in any way, but the guy was and is delusional, as best I can put it. He never seemed to understand what was at stake, nor how the world around him was really working. In his mind, once you're good at something, you could do it and get away with anything. In his mind, time waited for him, and chances were like a Drake feature. You get them again and again. This thinking led him to being arrested countless times, being shot a few, one time in the face, chest, and leg, resulting in him losing an eye, and a second time where he was shot in the leg, only to say that it was an accident. Wrong place, wrong time, my nigga. Oh, and there's his thinking that he still holds of one day going to the NBA. It's a sad situation to see this once promising star like this, but I think there's something wrong mentally with Paige, whether it's due to the things he's seen or lost growing up, or something naturally wired in his DNA. But something isn't right. He was drafted into the CBA by the Sioux Falls Skyfox, where he was a star and fan favorite. He was so good there, they retired his number 20 jersey. He showed up to the ceremony 3 months after being shot and losing his eye, with a Tupac picture hanging from a rope chain made of shoelace or something. It was admittedly the best time of his life, he said of Dakota, and I'd agree. He was amazing out there and in his element. Leaving Dakota and back to DC would only bring problems and more arrests for Paige. In September 2013, he was sentenced to 10 years for assault of a woman by beating her and stabbing her as well. After being paroled, he would assault another victim by attempting to rape her in broad light. This one was actually caught on tape, as he could be seen on top of the girl while onlookers tried to get him off as he refuses to let her go. She was 17 years old at the time. In June of this year, he was sentenced to 20 years after taking a plea deal. All in all, this is a sad but predictable story that ended senselessly. I would say I hope he gets out and shines a positive light on society, but that seems highly unlikely given his past and wiring of his mentality. I guess we're left with the story of what could have been, of the guy AI said is the reason he even has a crossover. But who knows, man? Maybe he turns his life around, or maybe there's a part 2 to this story. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.